right, we rolling. Here we go. I'm on podcast number 2. It's kind of funny because it's like all week I was thinking about, I should record the podcast today because I'm kind of committed to recording it on Sunday nights. I'm like, I should record the podcast today. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. And then doggone Sunday comes and I almost forgot. I almost forgot that I needed to record it today. Like literally every other day I woke up thinking about it. And Sunday this morning I woke up and it wasn't actually on my mind, and then trying to put my schedule together to make sure that I could accommodate recording it tonight. And, finally here I am. The funny part is, as I was setting up for it, I was thinking about how many times I got a habit of saying we, and I be talking about myself because of business stuff, but a lot of times we have a habit of letting little things stand in the way of getting the big thing done, right? What I mean by that is this is podcast number 2. I had 7 viewers on the last one, so it's like not a big deal or nothing. The literal goal right now is just to consistently record the podcast, right? And I spent about 45 minutes trying to figure out the background because I bought a green screen, and I bought this green screen some time ago, and I don't know if my lighting is off or I'm not using it right, or it's like more of a cloth green screen, so I don't know if I need to iron this thing out or whatnot, but the green screen was not screening. I couldn't get it to go, and I kept thinking maybe it was the different colors of the background, the different colors of the backgrounds or the backdrops I was creating, because it kept like kind of blurring the corners of my head and stuff like that, and it wasn't going to work as far as the video part. Like I know most of you listening are probably, just hearing it, but you do video recorded as well because you got to cut it up, make clips and stuff like that. So I was putting a lot of stock into getting this background right, only for me to just click on blur the background. In the end, I just blurred the normal background in it, and the reality of it is, it's not a big deal. That background, maybe at a certain point in time, having the precise background that you need is going to be important, but right now it's not. Right now the goal is to produce the podcast and consistently put it out. It's more so about me gaining a comfortability with talking in settings like this, just having my voice recorded sometimes in monologue settings. 2, looking at the camera, right? I'm looking now, but I keep looking away. Like I got a bad habit of not looking at the camera. And then it's kind of funny because, I'm recording and I can see myself on the screen. So it's like, I can look at myself, but then if I'm looking at myself, I can see that I'm not looking directly at the camera. So one of the goals is to learn to start looking at that little white light or little red light, depending on what I'm recording on. So learning how to look directly into the camera. Oh my gosh, so many times I've been looking in the camera and look away, and now I'm thinking about it, so I'm consciously telling myself, bring your eyes back to the camera. So, building up that ability as well as just comfortability with communicating. Well, if that's the overall goal, then though the background has some importance to just, the overall quality of the video, right? Just because it has credence there doesn't mean it's important for the whole entire thing. And given I just stated what I'm looking to accomplish with this podcast right now is just consistently talking and the things that were aforementioned. I love that word. I got some words out of I love the word aforementioned. And some of those aforementioned things, the background doesn't matter. And a lot of times, like this is a skill I consciously use with myself. Like, hey, let's break this thing down. Let's overly simplify it. And part of this overly simplification of this process. What's the true goal? Because we'll be doing something, and sometimes completing that task is not the true goal, which is kind of interesting sometimes for some people, but that's the reality of it. You set out to do something, but the completion of that task is not the goal. Completion of this podcast is not the goal. Consistency with the podcast is the goal. And I think that's two different things, right? So even when you're looking at other goals and things that we set, trying to figure out what is the true goal. Because once you figure out what that true goal is, it's easy to start Xing the things out that don't matter, or reprioritization, figuring out this thing doesn't matter as much. Not that it's not important, and important versus mattering. This is a general important concept, but it might not matter. This thing might matter, but it's not a generally important concept. And you have to recognize the difference between the two, because they're going to deal with prioritization. I know I've read books or seen quadrants that talk about what urgent, important, things like that, urgent and important. But that's the reality, learning how to segment tasks and figuring out what requires attention, what doesn't require attention. And when I think about attention, I even think about current mental capacity, right? Because I look at it like this. Your brain, like when your brain and your mind is working, you're thinking, you're doing things, blah, 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 all of that stuff is going on. You only have a certain amount of thinkability. That's what I call it. Like, you only have a certain amount of thinkability that you can distribute each and every day. Now, I also think it's like a muscle, you can build it up. But in general, you have a certain amount of thinkability you can use per day. If I waste some of my thinkability up thinking about stuff that's irrelevant or not urgent or doesn't need to be addressed today, that's taken away from the thinkability that can be used or applied to things that are more important, more relevant, more urgent, right? So I have this saying, I don't know the old saying, I know my daddy used to say it sometimes. I don't hear a lot of people say this no more. I say it all the time. We will cross that bridge when we get to it. We will cross that bridge when we get to it. I'm gonna fidget with something. We will cross that bridge when we get to it. And when I say that, in my mind, what I'm literally saying is this. Hey, there's a deficit, there's a problem, because we got from point A to point B. We need a bridge, a solution to get over it. I know one exists. My quick first analysis is that, hey, this might be a simple fix day of. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And then I also look at it like this. Sometimes I'll look at a situation and I'll think about, what are the consequences if this thing doesn't go well, right? What are the consequences if this thing doesn't go well? And sometimes the consequences of this particular thing not going well are very minimal. And sometimes that's how I view, like, if the consequences are very minimal, it's like, whatever, we'll figure it out. Because I will do without kind of person. I think that's, oh my God, I think that's one of the strongest muscles or things that an individual can have in today's society. Not even all society, an important thing when it comes to dealing and interacting with people, right? Just I really forgot the doggone point I was about to make. My ADHD flaring up. But just, I guess, the attachment thing, the doing without, like, if I'm willing to do without a thing, if I'm willing to just, let it go or be without, you can't really control me. Or control isn't, it's a whole nother conversation. What? Let's talk about it now. The statement. They're just trying to control you. They're trying to control me. It's a good doggone mic. I hear that train on. I pause because I can hear the horn louder through the mic picking it up than I can with my natural ear. This technology is something. It's good mic. Probably too good and whatever. But this podcast is all me for real. But the thing about control, when people are like, "Oh, this person's trying to control me," every institution or every person is quote unquote trying to enact some level of control, right? And typically that control is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes when people will be like, they're trying to control you, you got to be like, well, control you into what? They're trying to control you into going to school and getting an education and staying out of trouble and getting a house and living somewhere and starting a family and taking care of your family and raising your kids and keeping a job. That's what they're trying to control you into. Like, and a lot of times that's what sometimes that's what it really be. But we have to take that statement a little deeper. I think anytime somebody is going to present the thought or the notion that someone or something is trying to control you, you should ask yourself, what is it that they're trying to control you into? Now this can be a much deeper comment because I recognize there's some different rebuttals to that. I kind of think about it, when I'm a football coach. I'm trying to control the kids on the field and off the field. I'm trying to control them. There are certain things that I want them to do. Now, to the degree that I force that control, I don't like to expend effort. That I'm the most hardworking, laziest. We call that efficiency. I'm the most efficient person, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to expend that extra energy, right? So rather than control you by force, if I can control you with my voice, that's much better. And sometimes the semantics of a thing make it sound bad. Control you with my voice, that sounds horrible. But if I say, I like my players to have adequate response to my voice, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Let me try. But that's how I generally look at it. And in fact, when I transitioned from coaching youth football to high school football, what a jump. From youth to high school football and the state championship. Wow. God is good. When I made that transition, when I used to coach little kids, when it came to like respect, authority, control, I would be like, my first 2 or 3 days of practice was all in my mind, like, I got to break the kids. When I had from ages 6 to 12, in that, different teams, in that age range, day 1, 2, or 3 in practice, it's about breaking them because I need them to do what I say, right? So that whole breaking them process is about the first couple of days telling them to do little minute things that I really want them to do it right because they're going to need to do it right, uniform discipline wise as the season continues. But I know they're not going to get it right. And I know I'm going to punish them. And I'm already prepared to spend a lot of time punishing them because I need them to develop the muscle of response to my voice, right? So with young kids, I did that by force. Hey, toes on the line. I used to do that in basketball a lot. Put your toes on the line when you're about to condition or something. When these toes on the line, hey, that's not your toe, take off. And I make the whole team run, just continuously little things. Stop talking here one side. Hey, let's get it. Work hard. Oh, no walking on my field. Man, one time these kids they looked at me crazy because I think a kid walked like 2 steps. Like, is a step when you move 1 foot or is a step when you move 2 feet, right? Is a step right foot or is a step right foot, left foot? So the kid took 2 steps, right foot, left foot, walked it. I made the whole team run. But I'm willing to expend that meticulousness because as the season continues, our success is going to be predicated on them doing what I say, right? They're younger. I don't expect them to think how I think. In my mind, I'm like, I need them to see what I see and learn how to respond how I would respond to it. So I don't believe young people at that age have they're not dumb, not the mental, they just don't know enough, right? So rather than teach them all of that, I need them to just do what I say. And to get them to respond to my voice, I do it by force. But when I transitioned to high school, I took a huge social challenge with myself. And I said, I'm not going to do this by force. My goal is to get them to respond to my voice, whereby I literally wanted to garner enough. This word is respect. I wanted to garner enough respect with them that if I said, hey, do this, that they wouldn't question it, they would just do it. And it got to a great place on the field. Off the field, somewhat, kids will be kids. But it got to a great place on the field. And I got there like I did not want to force it through yelling and typical vehicles that coaches use. And I myself have used, and I think you definitely should use it with younger kids. But at some point in time, like I said, I needed the young people. I wanted them to respond to my voice. Now, there's certain things I say, like me as a coach, effort. That's one thing that is non-compromisable, effort, because I'm like, effort is effort. That's like a raw input. There's no amount of coaching or anything that can. As a coach, I can't do nothing about your effort. You got to bring the effort. I need you to bring the effort. And that was one of the biggest things that I had with these kids. Like, the effort is the most important thing. You're going to give me this effort. I remember when I was at Clemson, Coach Scott, he used to be like, listen, you going to give it to me now or you going to give it to me later? I remember days, we done practicing and we had a bad day, and then we on that sled. We on that sled after practice, and not what he had, we called it the round robin. Not doggone get the 3-point stance and fire. We did that sometimes. At one point, it was just keep the sled running, and then next, and then one person slide off, the next one slide, just keep going nonstop, and we'd be a mix of like anger and upset and encouragement and cussing and crying all at one time. But he used to say, I'm gonna get that effort out of you. That's how I feel with a football practice. You're gonna give me that effort. But with the high school kids, again, it was about getting them to respond to my voice without that with it. And I found something on the way. I made this acronym. I call AMP it up, AMP it up. A.M.P. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And those were the three things that I utilized in order to get them to respond to my voice better, as considering we were in a hierarchical situation. So it was autonomy. I need to give them the ability to make decisions. It can't be all about me making the choice. Now, truthfully, I wanted them to make the decision that I would make. But more important, I needed them to make the decision that they felt was best for them. And there has been, plenty of times, like if they would make a choice, hey, we want to block it like this, we want to call it this, If it didn't fit, I would challenge them on it. No, this isn't, like, why? But I gave them place to argue back with me. This is what you presented. I don't agree. It doesn't make sense. Have you considered this, this, and this? And then they come back, oh, we never thought about that, but I'm like, all right, you got it. And now I'm giving them, even though I don't like it and I don't agree, they've put the adequate thought behind it. And it's still, it might not be the way that I want it done, but I can recognize that what needs to be accomplished still will get accomplished. So let them have it. And that's, putting aside your ego. That's the autonomy part. And when people have autonomy over something that they're involved in, they're more willing to be a part of it, to be an active participant in it, because now they feel like they have a sense of control. They have some autonomy. They can make some choices. And even with that, disciplining them. If they made a mistake before I ripped, sometimes, like it was some stuff, I remember one time, it was this one game, man, we got sacked. And I'm the O-line coach. We got sacked. And, it's going to happen that time. But this was a sack that's unacceptable to me as a coach. If we got 5 offensive linemen and it's a 3-man rush, there should be no pressure because we're going to get 2 double teams and 1 solo. And even one of the double teams can come off and help. Like, there's no reason to give up a sack or pressure on the 3-man rush. And we got sacked on the 3rd down on the 3-man rush. And forget the technique, forget the communication, forgetting everything. It was cold. I cussed them out. Like, it wasn't even coaching. It was a straight cussing out. And it was one, like, I remember, I like to cuss, right? And I remember I was at practice. This is a Christian school, too, I was coaching at. And, like, the 3rd day of practice, the head coach pulled me to the side, like, hey, Coach Page, love the energy, la 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 la. You can't cuss. You can't be cussing like that. I can defend a lot of things. I can't defend the cussing. Okay, cool. So, so really held it back. And I did great, right? It wasn't an issue going forward until that day on the sideline doing the game. I ripped my line and it was cold. I remember my lips being numb. And I could feel my lips smacking against it. I got these big old lip, but I could feel my lips smacking on each other as I was yelling, and I could see the cold spit and stuff coming out. And it was just I let them have it. I was mad. I don't normally get like that. So that was a different circumstance. And sometimes people call that good coaching. Because I ain't even look. I was just went on about my day. Just went on with it, walked away, and it was a wrap. The head coach. People like that kind of stuff sometimes. But outside of that, normally even when it comes to discipline, I'm trying to figure out why you make the decision that you make. Like, there was a thought process behind it. So even in this autonomy thing, when they made a decision, why did you make that choice? What factors were you considering? Because now we have a teaching and a growing moment whereby even if they made the wrong decision and they said, well, I thought this is what I saw, this is what I know, this is the decision-making process. You see something, meaning you have a perspective. You interpret it, meaning that's the seeing in the perspective. You see it, you have a perspective, you have a process of thought, meaning you have a current set of information that you're working with. So, and then it spits out the output. And then also, so the third part of that is the goal that's trying to be accomplished, right? Always comes back to goals. So now it's like, okay, now I know where to correct. Is the problem the perspective? It's the problem vision. Did you see everything that was there? Because sometimes it's like, hey, I need you to start looking out. Hey, because I used to tell my tackles, listen, if we got one receiver, if you got one receiver to the right of you, like no tight ends, you got one receiver, and you see a DB and a linebacker and a safety, they probably might bring a blitz because hey, we got one threat over here. They have 3, or it is outnumbered. It might be pressure. Like, this is the kind of things I teach the line. So we're looking at it, and I'm like, hey, you need to look over there because if you look over there, you'll know. So that's an example of vision. Do you flat out see what's going on? Perception. Did you interpret what you see the right way? Say they see the 3 guys over there and they see one receiver. Maybe they missed an interpretation. Maybe they didn't, notice the style of defense. So different things like that. So perception, vision, perception, information, because now that you interpret this, it's going to go through your flow of information and you're going to take that information and use the information you had to make a choice. Just the information part need to be corrected. And then the last one, the goal, because you're doing all this to accomplish something. You might be trying to get here, but I need you to get here. Is the goal right? And then through that conversation, I can learn specifically what to correct. So through that, that's the autonomy part. Mastery part, the mastery was just getting them to have confidence in their skill. How do you build confidence in a skill? repetition, 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 which is again part of this journey I'm on right now doing this podcast. It's about repetition, 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 getting in the habit of doing this so I have a level of mastery with it, right? I already got the autonomy with this thing because it's my baby and I'm gonna do with it how I do and training and learning and all of that stuff. But the mastery part is gonna come through the repetition. This is part of me gaining mastery of this thing. And then the last of the purpose. What's the purpose of this? Like, people need to know what they're doing it for, even if and it's never no reason. So, like, when it comes down to, if you don't have a great reason, sometimes the best reason is because you're doing it. Look, you're doing it. So if you're gonna do it, do it. If you're gonna do something, do it. If you're gonna put forth the effort to go down a path, run with it. Get there. Get it accomplished. Get it done. If you're going to do something, do it. You're going to set yourself out to do something, then do it. Don't approach it half butt. Like, jump into that thing and do it. Like, if you're going to do something, you got to throw yourself at. Sometimes you got to find something to throw yourself at. See, it's funny. I'm getting hyped up about a purpose to accomplish something that's no other greater purpose than the fact that you're attempting to do it. So you need to do it. Like, that's it. And sometimes that has to be enough. I know we have, the greater purposes, and sometimes this is when you don't see the greater purpose yet. Sometimes, there's the greater purpose of the family and the community and the kingdom of God and the world and different things like that, society, and your actions can impact those things. But sometimes the only purpose you need is because you're doing it. I'm a part of this thing. My name is on, this is good pride right here. I'm involved in this thing. I'm doing it, so I'm going to doggone do it. I remember Coach Jackson telling us all the time, hey, this next game should be the best game you ever played because it's the next game. The next thing that you do should be the greatest. I remember coming back from the conference the other week. One of the biggest takeaways is David was like, give them your best. And just give them your best. If I'm before you, you're going to get my best. Do it. Like, if you're going to do something, give it your best. Like throw at it. So that's the purpose part right there. So autonomy, mastery, purpose. That's how I built this thing up. Yeah, that's how those were the important qualities. And it's crazy, as I'm thinking about that, man, I gotta start giving myself more credit. And running, I only got 2 minutes left. But I got to start giving myself more credit for the things that I'm good at and the things that I'm skilled at and the things that I do well and the things that I invest time into and I invest energy into behind closed doors, right? Because some of these things, I'm not just good for the sake of being good. I might have some natural inclination, but I study. I read. I hate reading, but I read. Oh my God. Dear sweet baby Jesus, thank you for the man that made Audible and that stuff, because that works well. That works well with me. Soaking up, just learning human behavior, how the mind works, how the brain works, people, overcoming stories, different things like that. But I got to give myself more credit. It's funny, I'm committed to doing 30 minutes and I get on here and I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. I thought I was going to talk about the overwhelming support that I received this past week. I thought I was going to talk about the different ways that I feel about publicizing my preaching. I thought I was going to talk about how easy it is to get overwhelmed or lost in trying to create these perfect social media posts and things like that. Nah, I talked about coaching and the things that I learned from coaching, and that I like, especially, that autonomy part, that was dope. That was some good teaching, and that purpose, that part gets you hyped in the master. I'm Trademark alert. We gonna get an AMP class going. I'm gonna write that down. We turn the page. AMP class, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. That thing is coming. That thing is needed. Oh, this is gonna be so good when it gets here. Hey, we got 30 minutes. Hey, this was episode number 2. It is recorded. It's about to get posted. Let's go. Let's get it.